Well, this is an amazing moment. Paul Hardcastle, hello.
Hello, Steve. How are you?
Really good, thank you. Welcome to Virgin Radio.
Thank you very much. Can I just say something?
Go on.
Your tongue's blue. They match my glasses. What, you've been eating people's sweets.
Here we go. We had a tray of sweets, and I thought, because I was waiting for you, I didn't know that it had dyed my tongue blue. So there we go. What a great start to the interview. Listen, we met each other a few weeks ago at that brilliant quiz that we did for My Black Dog, great charity. And I said, oh, please, come in. Love to speak to you. And I've got like a million questions for you. You really are.
Okay.
You really are and were a pioneer. First track, and I'm so glad you've put your own down to start off with. We have to do 19, don't we?
I suppose we do, really. It's the thing that everyone knows. And, I'm still proud of it, It was done against all the odds, really.
Tell me about it. Tell me where the idea came from.
Sure. I just read a newspaper when I was living in Leytonstone, and I just saw this programme. It said all about the young kids going to Vietnam, and I was only 24 myself. And I thought, I'm just going to tape it to see what it's about and stuff. And then I watched it, and I thought, I wonder, because I'm always sort of like being like a bit of a mad scientist. I thought, could this become a record? So what I did, I got a backing track down, and I started putting down the dialogue, which was done on a Betamax tape, believe it or not.
Wow, the huge cassette.
Yep, Betamax tape, and I basically bounced that onto a reel-to-reel and started experimenting with it. And I just thought, it hasn't got a hook. And I just bought this thing called an emulator.
What's that?
An emulator 2. It's one of the first sampling synthesizers.
Okay.
But it's called an emulator 2 because it's only got 2 seconds of sampling time. Now, that most probably saved me, because I would have put most probably like a minute of it. And because it would only do 2 seconds, that's where I got the idea for the 19
Gotcha.
thing. So it was worth basically sort of experimenting. But the funny thing was, I went out and I came back about 3 or 4 hours later. I just went out for I've done some shopping and a few bits and pieces. I think I went for a drive on my motorbike. And I came back and I thought, let's have a listen to that thing I was doing. And I totally forgot that I'd done that. And when it came to that bit, it smashed me in the face. I went, there's my chorus, there's my hook.
Yeah.
And, if I'd have just kept playing it, I would have, it was like, oh, that's all right. But when you don't listen to something for a while, and then it sort of like comes up and it sort of hits you in the face.
Yeah. And
that was it for me. And I basically took it over to Chrysalis. I don't know if you know how that all sort of started, do you, or not?
No, tell me.
So what happened was Simon Fuller was working at Chrysalis Publishing, and he had a record, Madonna, Like a Virgin, that was #1 on the 12-inch chart in America. And I had just released this instrumental track called Rainforest, which was a massive club hit here.
Right.
And it knocked Madonna off the top of the 12-inch sales chart.
Wow.
And that's when Simon basically contacted me, and he went, hi, my name's Simon, I work there. Could you come in and have a chat about some stuff? I went, yeah, sure, why not? And I walked into the office and he went, thanks for knocking my bloody record off. I said, it's all right. Anyway, cut a long story short, he said, have you got anything else that you're going to do? And maybe we could get all these sort of like, the directors and stuff of Chrysalis in to meet you. And I said, yeah, sure. I said, it's not what you might think, though. It's a bit strange. Anyway, I played it, and it just proved to me how strange it was, because everyone went, what the hell? And I bet old Simon thought, my P45's coming to me soon.
I always remember the first time I heard it, though. I was a kid, and it was on a Now album, and I was like, what is this? So it felt, in the mid-'80s, such a groundbreaking track. First question I've got for you about 19 is, was it from one news report that you had heard and you thought, how did the idea come?
It was a TV documentary called Vietnam Requiem.
Okay.
And it was on for about an hour and a half. And I just took the parts that I thought were interesting, like it starts off, in 1965, Vietnam, blah, blah, blah. And, there was 26, the soldiers in World War II, and in Vietnam they were 19. That's a big gap. That's a very big gap, you know. And so that was the start of it. And I just remember sort of 2 weeks later, after sort of we put it out, I'm on News at 10. It got launched on News at 10. And the funny thing was, the lucky thing was that one of the girls in Chrysalis We was going to put it out in March, and she said, "Do you realise it's the 10th anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War?" And Simon, who hadn't even been a manager at the time, you know, he said to me after the Chrysalis debacle, he said, "How would you think if I basically left my job and became your manager?"
Wow.
So, and 6 weeks later, we was both sort of like on top of the world.
Do you know one of the most the brilliant things about this record is it makes you want to dance. However, you of course can't, because you're listening to the most awful, startling facts, aren't you? It's the most incredible kind of juxtaposition.
Yeah, you're right. It did have that in there, and I saw I saw it played in the club and people dancing to it, and it even felt strange to me, to be honest with you. But them sort of beats and stuff, that's what Rainforest was sort of sounding like and stuff. I was into the New York sort of hip hop thing, so that's the music I was playing. You know, if I'd have been into rock, then it would have been a rock record. So, but that's what I was doing at the time, and not unfortunately, you know, it went to number 1 on the dance charts. Went to number 1 in, I can't remember, 13 different countries. I think in the end it sold about 6 million.
I love the fact you put this Talk Talk song in. This is another one of those tracks that is a mood changer, isn't it? What is it about this song? Why have you picked this one?
Do you know what? To be honest with you, it's the guitar riff. I'm going to be honest. I mean, it's a great song anyway, but you know, that is a great guitar sound. I think that was something that was, you know, you had that, and you had Jim Kerr's band,
Simple Minds.
You know, they all had that sort of like that sort of Gibson-y sort of mellow guitar, but played in a rock way. Yeah. And that was the first thing I heard from it, and I just thought that. And then, you know, Life Is What You Make It, and I just thought, this is great. And it was out at the same time as 19. So most of the records that I've sort of chosen have, you know, around that sort of time, really.
Yeah, and there's something about the production with this record. It hasn't aged, does it?
No, not at all.
Why is that?
Because you haven't got the big, massive snare that everyone used to do. It's like boom, bang, boom. You know, I mean, the snare was louder than the bloody bass drum and the vocal put together on a lot of records. So I think that's what gave it away, and that's when you had the invention of the Linn drum, which is one of the first sort of proper sounding, you know, sort of drum machines. Yeah. And that spelt the demise of not the demise, but, you know, the downward spiral of the drummer, really, in studios. It's just so easy to do, wasn't it, you know?
Paul, question for you.
Yep.
When you were a kid, were you one of these kind of like bedroom kind of nerds playing with staff? You know, did you know from a very early age that you were a genius technically? Because that's what you are. I'm embarrassing you, I know, but you really are.
No. All I wanted to do was basically become a motorbike racer.
Really?
That was my ambition in life, and I was pretty good at that until I basically put myself in hospital for nearly 4 months. Then came out, I fractured, I had compound fractures on my femur, my tibia, my fibia. Half of it was my fault because I was going too fast, but someone pulled out as well. So
was that a life-changing moment for you having that
exactly,
experience?
because what I did, I was in there for 4 months, I had nothing to do, and I was just listening to the radio, and I was thinking, this hurts. And I thought, because I'd done music with my dad when I was like about 8 years old. I went all around Berlin. We lived everywhere, you know, anywhere that he was getting gigs. And I was the sort of novelty because I could play the drums and do a little bit of sort of singing and play a little bit of guitar.
Did you start off as a keyboard player?
No, I'd never touched a keyboard.
Did you not? Okay.
Not until I come out of hospital.
Oh, wow, okay.
And I wangled my way into a band with a load of lies. I'd only been playing it about sort of 3 months. What they did, they liked my ideas. That was the thing. I didn't have a proper recorder, so I had 2 cassette decks, and I used to have to and the synthesizer was monophonic, meaning you can only play 1 note at a time. Mm-hmm. So I had to get a 3-note chord. I had to record a C, put it into the other cassette, bounce that C back, and as I was doing that, then I'd play E, and I'd make a chord like that.
This is the era when you had to graft, didn't you? You had to put the work in to get the rewards.
It sounded awful though, because you've got 1 chord down, it's like you know, the amount of hiss from a cassette.
Yeah, so, yeah. It's incredible, isn't it?
It is.
I want to ask you about Luther Vandross. Yeah. So amazing. I know you've got a really good story about this track and about him. Did you ever meet him?
I didn't, but I did. Actually, do you know what? No, I don't think he was there because I worked on a couple of Change records.
Right.
But I'm sure he had left by then. And to be honest with you, I was doing so much of this, I can't remember half of it. And But I loved him. He was a session musician, singer at first, wasn't he? But wow, what a great singer. And I love the track number one. It's the first sort of song that my son started playing sax to, because he's a musician, my son.
I heard that.
Yeah,
I read that.
He's played on some of my albums in America.
Wow, you must be very proud.
Yeah, no, he's very, very good.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a good entertainer. But that was the first track that he ever sort of played to. And while I was in America, I basically got asked by a company that sort of owned the rights to Luther Vandross and Whitney Houston's stuff. They bought all the catalogue, and they asked if I would basically play around with it a little bit and see what I could come up with. And so,
is that as a remixer or producer? Or?
Well, put it this way. I mean, it's not just a remix, because there's nothing original from the music. Now, I could tell you a quick story about that. I was asked to do Third World, Now That We Found Love, and they had Francois Kevorkian, who's a mega producer in America. They had a load of people, and what they used to do for a remix, all they would do is basically just add some percussion and just make it elongated type of thing. Yeah. And I said, well, what's the matter with that? They said, we want it different. So what I did, and I think I'm the first person to have done this, I got them to copy the 24-inch, the 24 track 2-inch tape.
Yeah.
And I wiped it all apart from the vocal and the hi-hat, and I basically replayed everything back into it and made it
Wow.
And I went back there and I thought, they're either going to love this or they're going to basically sort of like set about me,
Yeah.
And 5 minutes later, they're all dancing around the thing. That's what we wanted. And I was thinking, wow, I called it right. Because I didn't know.
Wow, that's incredible. So you stripped it all the way back and basically kind of reworked.
Totally.
Reworked the whole thing.
Exactly.
Which must have been one of the first instances, because people do that all the time now, don't they?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that was before 19. So that would have been about 84, I think. But I just took the chance, like I took the chance really when everyone told me not to release 19. Even Chrysalis at the time, they said, do you really want to have this as your first sort of career sort of launch with Chrysalis?
Why was that? Because it's serious? Because it's, it makes people think?
Because there's never been heard someone talking about your head being blown off and then going no, and then orchestra stabs and...
Yeah, it's all going on, isn't it?
It was. But I tell you what I did do. I did actually get permission from Marvin Gaye's family to use his voice, and I did one, it was called Rainforest and 19 mixed together, and
oh, wow.
your listeners should take a listen to that, because I think that's my favourite version. Shouldn't work as a ballad, but it does. It really does.
Okay, lovely. Tell me about So Amazing and this song, just quickly as we go into this song. This is a song. Why have you put this on your list?
Well, as I said, because it was the first track that my son sort of played along to, and that's what inspired him, because he played to it really well. I just think Luther was great, and I just think it's a really good song, and it just so happened that this company owned the rights to it, and I thought, I'm going to change it around and bring it in.
And everyone was happy. The rest is history.
Yeah, totally.
Great thing about having you this way. Are you enjoying this, by the way, Paul?
Well, I haven't shut up yet, have I?
It's great because you are like you're the ultimate muso. I could spend hours chatting with you about it. But again, we've got another track here, Whitney Houston, that you say that you kind of worked on. Is that right? Tell me more.
Whitney Houston, for me, I wasn't mad on her, because to me it was too poppy, and I've not really been a pop person. I like the Isley Brothers and all that sort of soul-y stuff. But when I heard this was on the B-side of the Shoop Shoop song.
Right.
And I remember hearing it and thinking, wow, that is absolutely stunning. And when this company sort of said that we've got a lot of Whitney Houston's catalogue, I said, have you got Dancing on a Smooth Edge? And they went, no, what's that? And they didn't even know they had it.
See, I hadn't heard this track until you put it on the list.
I think it's her best song.
Why?
Because it shows off her vocals and stuff. It's not just. Look, let me be honest with you, right? I want to dance with somebody who loves it. Please, how many times have we heard that sort of stuff, right? So it sort of goes past me. But Dancing on a Smooth Edge, straight away you're going to think, oh, hang on, what's that all about?
Yeah.
And it's the sort of, she's mad on this guy, but it's just said in a different way, and I just thought, yeah, and it really made me a big fan of hers then, and I got the chance to work on it.
Did you meet her?
No, this was only about. I've only did this about 18 months ago.
Oh, I see.
She wasn't around, obviously.
How does it make you feel, just on that note, knowing that lots of your contemporaries in the 80s are not around anymore? We've lost...
I know.
It's funny, I saw Madonna in concert recently, and she made a point of saying, out of all the people that were my colleagues in the 80s, George has gone, Prince has gone, Whitney's gone,
Yeah.
You just got Tina Turner's gone. How does it make you feel?
Lucky to be alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a shame. I think, to be honest with you, we're all going to go, though. So I think it's just because, we've made names for ourselves in the papers and stuff, but we're no different to sort of like Fred down the road if he passes away. So, I mean, when David Bowie went, that was something that, because I'd really grown up on his stuff, and also Bolan. I mean, I was a big Bolan fan as well at the time. Sounds nothing like what I do. I was into heavy rock as well, Sabbath.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah,
Your
totally.
influences.
So amazing.
So amazing. Let's talk about Wizard, shall we?
Okay.
And this track. Now, lots of people will know this track, obviously, from the theme of Top of the Pops,
Sure.
which it was for a long, long time, wasn't it? I mean,
About 6.5 years, I think.
That's incredible, isn't it? So tell me about how you came up with that song and how it got to be the theme of Top of the Pops.
Very easy. So, do you remember Don't Waste My Time?
Yeah.
With Carol Kenyon, where we'd done Top of the Pops, and I was just sort of coming off the stage, and a guy come up to me and he went, "Oh, hi," he said, "just want to say," he said, "that was a really good performance on." He said, "And I loved 19 as well." I said, "Oh, thank you very much." I was just talking, and I just thought it was one of the cameramen, and all of a sudden he went, "Would you be interested in writing the new theme tune for Top of the Pops?" He said, "No, I'm Michael, by the way." And I went straight away, "That's Michael Hurl."
Right.
Who was God at the time, because you know what Top of the Pops was like. You get on that, you are going up the chart.
I mean, you're talking like 20 million plus viewers,
totally.
aren't you, every Thursday night?
Yeah, exactly. So I said, I tried to play it cool. I went, yeah. And I'll tell you what was funny, because after I agreed, I said to him, how long have I got? He said, as soon as you can do it. He said it would be great. So we recorded our show on the Tuesday, and by the Friday morning I had it biked over to him, because I just bought this brand new piece of equipment called a synclavier,
right,
which there was only 5 of them in the country.
What did that do?
Inspired me, made it so easy. I mean, you're used to sort of like not using tape. Do you remember the tape days with the old splicing block and all that?
Kind of, yeah. When I started in radio, people were still doing that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, all that stuff, and and you'd get to the end of the track, and it would be like rewinding the tape.
Yeah.
So it just gave me so much inspiration, and it also gave me inspiration because I thought, if I get this, it's going to be watched by millions and millions of people.
So did you create the Wizard because you had to come up with a piece of music for Top of the Pops?
Exactly.
Or did you have that in your... Did you have it... Was it in... No, you see, that's incredible.
Nothing at all. I mean, that was this... I tried 1 or 2 ideas just before, and I was thinking, no, they're not working very well. Let's try something different. And I came up with this melody, da 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 da, that one. And quite funny, there was a bit in the middle of it, and because I'd called it The Wizard... you might remember a programme called Catweasel?
Yes.
With Jeffrey Belden.
Yeah.
I phoned up Simon, who was then obviously my manager properly then, and I said, can you see if you can get Catweasel to sort of like do some stuff? Because I wrote out this little lyric about darkness and light, I bid you collide, all this wizard stuff.
Yeah.
And we got him, and it was great, all these people are coming over to my house. And like that I'd watched and stuff, and it just didn't. It was a bit surreal, to be honest with you.
Coming into the bedroom and dropping there, yeah.
Exactly. Well, no, it was a bedroom. You're right, it was, but it was sort of like there's nothing in there. But what he did do, which I think was great, I said to him, just at the end of the track, I said, could you just do me a little rhyme right at the very end? Just say anything that comes off the top of your head.
Yeah.
And he went, okay, right, here we go. Ready? Right, now buy this rotating plastic demon, or I will curse ye to the end of time. And I just thought, brilliant. And so it's on the end of the 12-inch record.
Yeah. And you really should be congratulated, because this record is a moment in time, and it takes me back to tuning into Top of the Pops, excited that you're about to see your favourite artist,
totally.
you know, over in the UK. And this was like, they used kind of 30-40 seconds, didn't they, at the beginning of the show? 30
seconds at the start, 30 seconds at the end, but it was usually about 6 minutes, obviously, with the chart rundowns and things like that. So that's where it basically sort of, you know, you knew it more. There was a funny story about that. See, I got them all. Radio 1 wouldn't play it.
Really?
And they would be the only people that would play it, because you're not going to get Capital playing it. You wouldn't play it. I mean, it's you know, it's the Beeb, so that's their thing. What happened was, everyone on EastEnders was releasing records. So you had Nick Berry, Letitia Dean, what was her name? Den's wife.
Angie.
Angie Watts.
Yes.
Watts, was it?
Angie Watts, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so they stopped. They said they wasn't going to play anything to do with TV anymore. And my plugger, he went, but it's the theme for Top of the Pops. It's the theme for your thing. And Michael Hurl really got annoyed, and he said, you know what? He said, I'll get the bloody Capital Radio DJs in then, if that's going to go. He went mad. Yeah. And so the week that it came out, it was showing in the midweeks, which is like, you know, your midweek position. Yeah. At about 74 or something like that, because I wasn't getting any play at all.
Apart from on Top of the Pops.
But I hadn't been on there yet.
Okay.
So 74 it was showing, and I did. They played the video, and at the very end they had all people in Paul Hardcastle t-shirts and holding up the record. Mike Smith did it all. Yeah. And I timed how much music I had on that show, and it was about 14 minutes before it was even released. So Michael Hurl did what he said he was going to do, and I really thought, wow, you know, someone that's pulled it. And it went in at 30 or something like that, I think. Yeah. So 40 places it had jumped because of that one showing on Top of the Pops. You must have got a very personal question I've got to ask you, though. The royalties must have been off the hook. They are very good. Yeah, I mean, I'll let you into a secret. I mean, it was roughly about £90 a minute that you'd get paid, but the thing was, I had the theme tune for Holiday with Jill Dando. Do you remember that? Yeah. I had Late Breakfast Show. That was through Michael Hurl. I was doing stuff, Wildlife on One. The Clothes Show. Wow. All of a sudden, everyone's asking me to do themes. Super Sense. I don't know if you remember that. No. It was the groundbreaking film that they made where they first put a camera on a bird's back, and it was flying, and you know, it's a tiny little camera, and it won an award. It was called Super Sense. Right. Very big. So I had that on. That was on for 6 weeks. So yeah, I had about 5 programs on each week. Yeah. And I know that they, you know, going back to Top of the Pops, they chop and change the theme, and there were different ones, but this is if you're kind of around 40, 45, this is the one, isn't it? Yeah, but there's another funny story. I got asked to produce Phil Lynott, and he was Thin Lizzy. I loved Thin Lizzy. They were my one of my heroes type of thing. Yeah. And I said to someone, I said, I can't do that. You know, I was being serious. I said, Phil Lynott, I can't go and tell him what to do. Because one of your tracks is 19, isn't it? Well, let's talk about that now. Tell me about that. Okay, well, basically, I was just going to say, just going back to it, basically, Phil had the theme tune called Yellow Pearl when I met him, and it had just basically been taken over by the wizard, and he went to me, hey, you've taken over my tunes, you know that? Which was hilarious, you know. So Phil, I was asked to produce him, and he had a track, it was just called 19, nothing like mine, but it was like a rock record. And as I say, I didn't want to do it at first because I felt not embarrassed, but I didn't feel like, not worthy, but you know, when you've got a hero and you're at school and then you're asked to produce his record, it just doesn't seem right. Yeah. And that happened with Ian Jury. I mean, lots of people, you know. But anyway, we did this record, and I mean, it was funny. You know, I wanted to put a motorbike on it. And I was going to show Phil a little trick that I could do. So he said, how are we going to keep it in time, you know? So I got the sampler out, and I got Phil to rev the bike up, but he revved it so much that all the alarms went off and stuff like that. So we had to go outside for half an hour. Came back in, I sampled it, and he wasn't into samplers, Phil. He didn't know much about them, but If you know it goes brrr like that, or just one of those brrr sort of things, I just truncated it down, put it on the keyboard, and it went in time. And then the drummer come in, and he's like, "Holy mother!" So we had a great time. He was really nice, Phil. And the one thing I still got is my gift that was my wedding present. And it was his jukebox he gave me.
Wow.
So
you've got that at home, have you?
Still got it, yeah.
Wow, that's something special.
Very much, very much.
Quick question for you, as a kind of predominantly a producer, how did it make you feel when you were on Top of the Pops and you're waiting to do your thing and you've got, you know, your Kim Wildes and da 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 da? Did that freak you out?
Well, I didn't do Top of the Pops for 19.
Right.
I refused. I think we all agreed at the record company that there was nothing really for me to do. You know, it was the video basically that carried it. And I keep coming up with there's a bit of a story to that. Well, I thought, well, I might as well tell you them.
Yeah,
all.
please.
So at the time when 19 was at number 1, Duran Duran were at number 2, biggest band in the world.
Yeah.
And most probably the biggest film in the world, with View to a Kill.
Of course, a Bond film.
Right. So after 2 weeks, my PR man, the sales director sort of said, "Oh, it looks like they're going to overtake you next week, you know, because the Bond film's come out. The machine is rolling now after me." And I was thinking, wow, I've waited so long for this. So I went, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go home now, and I'm going to go through the rest of the tape on the song of the Vietnam Requiem.
Yeah.
And I'm going to basically call it the Destruction Mix. So basically, I got that to them within a day. They got it pressed up so quickly, it sold another 70,000, which kept us at number 3. Then it was, they're like a juggernaut, right? You know, they were the biggest band in the world.
Yeah.
I hadn't been heard of. I did it again, and I called it The Final Story. So it basically told the story of when all the people came back.
So there's like 3 parts to that song, is there?
There was 3. I did 2 remixes. The first one was the first record, just as a record. Then basically the third one, as I say, The Final Story, that really sort of says, well, what happened when they came home, all the rest of it. So it ended the whole thing, and it kept me number 1 for 5 weeks. And I was overtaken by The Crowd. You know, that charity record for Bradford Fire, and I was fine with that. You know, I just thought, I've waited all this time and they're going to knock me off. But it was great, and we changed the video as well. We did it in days, you know.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like
and I remember
Simon belt of material.
It was. I remember
you.
Simon Le Bon being interviewed when he was at the premiere, and the woman went, "Well, you didn't get to number 1. You didn't knock Paul Hardcastle." He went, "Well, he keeps bloody remixing it, doesn't he?"
I love it. No one's ever asked for this. I love this track, Loose Ends. Tell me about this.
So Carl McIntosh, he's quite a good friend of mine. I met him once where he came up a friend of mine's house and he started playing the bass. And he's a great bass player, Carl. And I had only just started. I'd had a synthesizer for about 2 weeks, and I'm like, bing, 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 you know, I was just, and he's going boom, boom. I just felt really, really uncomfortable. He's like, "Come on, man, you've only played it 2 weeks." Anyway, cut a long story short, he came back from America, and he'd been produced by a guy called Nick Martinelli, and he played me this track. And I went, "That is great." I said, "Do you know what?" I said, I can't tell what's going to be a hit and what's not. I said, "But I think that is absolutely special." And it was, you know. I remember hearing the year-end countdown of top club records, and I was the only one that got above it. He was number 2 and I was number 1. I sneaked into number 1 on it. But, you know, we've remained good friends and stuff, and I went up to I saw Loose Ends about 2 months ago down the Jazz Cafe, which was good.
So they're still doing their thing?
Yeah. Carl's still out on the road and stuff like that, yeah. But, you know, they come up with some great stuff, and they was massive in America.
As I said, this is another one of those records that hasn't dated at all.
Not at all.
Still sounds great. Still gives you that swagger,
yeah.
You know, when it starts, and it's a really special sound, isn't it?
It's great. That was Nick Martinelli. He was a good producer. And yeah, I mean, it's just a great song, great chorus. But he also played me a track called "Tell Me What You Want," and he said, "Do you like rock guitar?" a lot of really heavy. I said, of course I do. I said I was into Hawkwind, Sabbath, Deep Purple, Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
And he played with it. I said, I like that as well. But String, I think, was going to be the one because they're a soul band.
Yeah.
And it just still sounds great today.
There's a big 19 theme running through lots of these tracks, isn't there? So we've got Steely Dan. Tell me about this one.
Steely Dan, I actually did a cover of Do It Again. And I just thought that record was really good. I mean, I play a lot of stuff when I'm out in the back in the garden and stuff, just slommocking around, just having a cocktail and just watching the world go by. And that kept coming up on my playlist, and I just thought, you know what, that would be a good one to play.
Yeah, and nobody, again, another one that no one has asked. We've been doing this for a couple of years. Why this one, though? Is it just because you like it?
Yeah, totally. I mean, if something grabs me, it grabs me. And, I mean, the one that you're going to play after, I suppose, Love and Money. I mean, that, to me, was the biggest travesty that band didn't become huge. They are a really, really, really great band, and they just got overlooked. And there was another band called The Adventures as well, which Simon was looking after, and they got loads and loads of Radio 1 play, but it never became a hit. It was
Isn't that crazy?
It was called a radio hit, isn't it?
Yeah. Is that just down to luck? Like it was the wrong time or the wrong sound, or?
I don't know, Steve. It could be anything. I mean, but it was getting played all over the place, and just didn't work. But Love and Money, I just think, that album from 1985, and it was produced by Steve Katz, who produces Steely Dan.
Yes, yeah, of course. So it's all kind of related, isn't it?
Sort of, yeah.
Got a massive question for you, and I just thought of this. What do you think about your contemporaries back in the day, like the other big producers? I'm going to chuck at you Stock Aitken and Waterman, for example, who were around kind of at that time. What do you think about them, their success, their legacy, their back catalogue? It wasn't my sort of stuff. Well, there was some stuff that I liked. Like I liked Princess, Say I'm Your Number One, some of them sort of ones, and they did a thing called Roadblock, didn't they? Roadblock, which was quite ahead of its time.
Exactly.
Talk about sampling. I mean,
exactly.
that was a thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, basically. I mean, that was clever because they didn't say who it was.
Yeah.
That was great.
People thought it was really cool until they found out.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. But no, I mean, listen. There's horses for courses. I wasn't into Sonia and stuff like that because I'd grown up on like heavy rock, and then I got into sort of like soul, so it wasn't my thing. But I have to give them respect because they made a big mark. I don't listen to the Rolling Stones, I don't listen to the Beatles, and people would go, what? But I give them respect because of what they've done.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't turn it off, but I wouldn't actually sort of make way to sort of play it type of thing, that sort of thing. Like, it's got to be something that I really get, like Isley Brothers. I mean, Pink Floyd, still my favourite band of all time. Barry White, who I got to sort of work with on one of his tracks as well. I mean,
which one was that?
Never Never Gonna Give You Up.
Really? Okay.
And I know it's going to come up later, but I'll tell you about it now. Let's preempt it a little bit. You're going to say to me, why D-Train? Aren't you?
Yeah. Well, we're going to play that this week, aren't we?
Yeah, totally. Right. So basically what happened was I said to Simon, I don't want to do any more remixes because I wasn't working on my own stuff. I'd done so many, from 5-star to Change to just everything I was doing. And when you're, I suppose, the golden boy, everyone wants to put your name on it, and that's how it worked. And I loved doing it for a while. I did it for about 8 months, 10 months. And then I went, no, I don't want to do any more. I should start finishing off my album, and I said, no, I don't want to do any more. He went, do you want to know what it is? I said, no, I'm not interested. He said, I think you would want to know who it is. And I said, I don't want to do it, but tell me. He went, D-Train. I said, I'll do it. Just like that.
Well, let's talk about D-Train, because you're the one for me.
Yep.
Is on your list.
Yep.
Best
record of the 80s.
Yeah, go on. I thought you might say that. Why? What is it about this?
Oh, it was just, I think the production, it was just what dance music should have always been. I mean, as soon as that came on in a club or something, dun, 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 everyone just flocked to the, and it wasn't really a hit. It wasn't a hit.
Well, it was a club hit, wasn't
exactly,
it?
But not in the pop chart and not in the pop sort of scene. And so all of a sudden, I'm asked to redo this record. I'm thinking, how can I make this a little bit more what people might want nowadays? And so I changed the drums and put a bit of a synth solo in it because it seemed that people liked a modulated synth solo, and I changed James's vocals around a bit as well, and I think I pulled the chorus back more up to the front of the song. Sorry, not back, and it just sounds a lot harder and a lot more contemporary. And to have my favourite record go in the charts because of what I'd done, and then get asked to do Top of the Pops with him, that was my first appearance on Top of the Pops.
Was it?
Yes.
Can you remember that day?
Remember it very much so. I was excited as hell. I remember like they had all balloons, and I was sort of playing this guitar thing, and I'm doing a bit of a sort of like, you know, a Nobby Styles in jumping up to the balloons. But no, it was a fantastic day. And then they asked me to do music as well, the follow up, which I loved as well. And I reworked that as well. So, you know, I've done all the things I've really wanted to do, really.
As we go into this song, quick question for you about some of the people that you must have influenced, because just a couple of years later down the line, you had Mark Moore from S Express and Bomb the Bass and stuff like that, and Mars doing, you know, Pump Up the Jam.
Volume.
Pump Up the Volume. That was Technotronic, wasn't it?
Right.
Thank you. But yes, you must have. You kind of led the way. How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel great. It really does. And a lot of people have said that. You know, Moby, people like that. As you know, they've sort of said Paul was at the front of it all, and it's great. But I don't think about it that much, to be honest with you. I just think of what I do now, and you know, for me, I think I'd achieved everything I wanted in pop. But my career was really, it didn't have what you would class as, you know, a straight road. It was always like 1 minute I'm doing something like about the Vietnam War, then the second record comes out, which is about the Great Train Robbery and some Valentine's Day Massacre. Then it changes to basically Don't Waste My Time with Carol Kenyon. Then it goes back to The Wizard, and I'm thinking, how many times can I keep changing? And after 3 years, if I'm honest with you, I'd sort of had my fill of being in the Goldfish Bowl, I think it's called. And so I went back to the sound of like Rainforest, which I was doing, and it exploded in America. It really did. It came up so much. And on the Billboard chart, I'm sort of up around 29 or 30 number ones off each album I've done over there. Wow. So it was a risky sort of thing to do, but I just wanted to sort of do it and see if I could achieve something else. And it's like, you know, it worked. So, yeah.
Paul, thank you so much for joining us this week.
We're
going to go into Jocelyn Square.
Oh, yeah.
We'll do that now, but just one final question for you.
Yep.
What's your proudest moment?
Winning the Ivor Novello Award.
Yeah. Tell me a bit about that. That was for 19, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. So basically, I won International Hit of the Year, which means I sold more records than anyone internationally and England type of thing. So and it's also sort of like, you know, not just someone voting you know, down the phone or whatever. This is all done by proper people, and they sort of voted. I was actually nominated for 3, but I think David Bowie and Mick Jagger won one of them and stuff. But listen, 1 out of 3, that did
That's
me.
not bad, is it?
And I still keep that. That's pride
You take
of place.
that.
I'll take that. Very good.
Paul, thank you so much, and we're really looking forward to you. This is exciting. Being on Virgin Radio 80s Plus, you're doing your takeover shows 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. every Saturday for the next few weeks. Can't wait, because you're the man. You've got all the stories about these songs and stuff. So anyway, welcome to the team.
Thank you very much.
Lovely to meet you. You're
and
a wonderful man.
Well,
really enjoyed it this week.
Anyway.
Yeah, well, of course, but nice to cement and do this.
Yeah, no, listen, I enjoyed it. I really did. I just enjoyed doing these things. It's great, sort of going back over stuff. Oh, I know, I didn't tell you. I've got a book coming out.
Got Paul out. Come on, we nearly missed it. Go on.
It's coming out in October, and it's called The Hard Way. And it just sort of tells the story of my life when I was out with my dad, how record companies turned me down, then basically wanted the tracks after when they sort of said, you know, it's no good and all that.
That sounds fascinating.
A load of stuff in there that, you know, I mean, one thing, there's what I didn't know was there's a lot of stuff before I was born. So I don't know if you remember a group called The Crazy Gang.
Yeah.
That was my great uncle in that. My mum was in the Tiller Girls from the Palladium, and my dad basically played with like Duke Ellington.
Isn't that amazing?
And that's before I was even thought of.
Yeah.
So that filled up a chapter.
Runs in the family. Listen, and that book's out in October, did you say?
Yeah, The Hard Way.
Paul Hardcastle, great to meet you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Steve.